It was one of the biggest, most powerful and feared tanks of the Second World War, but the German King Tiger, or the Tiger II, had a number of flaws. It was one of the largest vehicles ever made that would see action on a battlefield, and its powerful armament and incredibly thick armour made it capable of destroying anything that the Soviets and Allies had with regards to their own tanks, but it also became able to withstand a lot of punishment too. The Tiger II was let down by the reliability issues and problems that it suffered with, and there were countless accounts from the tank crews of their huge weapon being stuck in mud or breaking down because of mechanical failure. As parts struggled to be made in time because of the Allied bombing raids, striking tank manufacturers, things became even more difficult for the Tiger tank crews. The Tiger II was incredibly destructive in the final days of the Second World War, and they were even seen by people on the streets of Berlin trying to protect Hitler's governmental headquarters and his Führer bunker as the Soviet Red Army encircled and rampaged the city. They were as deadly, though, as their experienced crew, and many inexperienced German forces were thrown inside of King Tigers, making them vulnerable against the battle-hardened Soviet forces. It was recorded by the 103rd SS Heavy Panzer Battalion that used Tiger IIs that they destroyed over 500 enemy vehicles between January and April 1945, with only 45 Tiger IIs being lost in the face of the Soviets, and their many more tanks and artillery pieces. But if a crew became in danger, or if the tank broke down, then the soldiers were ordered to destroy their vehicle and flee. But this did not always happen, and many tank crews fled their vehicles, ditching them where they stopped in their tracks. There is one King Tiger today that lies under a road inside of France, and the road was actually created over it. But there are hopes today that this vehicle will be restored and removed, and possibly even returned to running condition. This King Tiger has even been insured for millions of dollars. Today we look at the King Tiger stuck under a road in France. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. It was inside of Normandy that the first combat use of the King Tiger was deployed, as during the Battle of Normandy following D-Day, the 503rd Heavy Panzer Battalion used the vehicles against the Allies. Early after-action reports about the tank outlined its strengths, and one commander claimed, "The Tiger II proved itself extremely well, both in its armour and from a mechanical perspective. Vehicles which received up to 20 hits without becoming disabled were not uncommon. In summary, the Tiger II has proven itself in every way, and is a weapon that the enemy fears." But the King Tiger tank that is found buried under the road near to northwestern Paris is not complete. It is in two parts. The turret of this vehicle has already been recovered and is currently undergoing restoration work, but the chassis of the vehicle, the huge base of it, is still buried under the road. It was in 2001 that this vehicle was found, along with various other parts of the tank, close to Montargis-la-Jolie, and this King Tiger was from the 101st SS Abteilung, and it was lost on the 26th of August 1944. It was lost inside of a crater, and it was blown up after the war by a scrap dealer, presumably who wanted to take parts of it and then cash in on them. This was common at the end of the Second World War, as many vehicles were scrapped by different nations. But in the years following this, the road was then constructed and created directly over the King Tiger tank, burying it under thousands of vehicles that pass over it every single day. It was a local historian who managed to remove parts of the turret and the other parts of the King Tiger, but as mentioned, the hull is still under the road, and there are hopes that it will be raised from under it to restore it to good condition, possibly even becoming a gate guardian in front of an important installation such as a museum. Restoring vehicles such as Second World War tanks is incredibly costly and expensive, as parts are not made anymore, and specific pieces have to be gathered from collectors, but there are concerns in France that the tank would be too costly to excavate due to the disruption caused to the road, and also as closures would need to be in place for some time, and the road would also, presumably, need to be fixed after. One spokesperson from the Tank Museum in Bovington in England about the discovery claimed, "A great piece of history has been damaged, and I only hope it can be restored, but we are delighted that this long-awaited recovery project can now take place, and we cannot wait to see another original King Tiger II on display in Normandy." To protect the King Tiger, the vehicle was insured for a sum of around £2 million, but once restored it would be worth a huge sum, as recently a Panther was sold in Germany for €14 million. There are many more problems with lifting the King Tiger and getting it out from underneath the road. It's considered that the tank was abandoned with the shells and explosives inside of it, meaning that thousands of people every day may be driving their vehicles directly over a World War II tank that is stuffed full of explosive shells that could go off if they were moved or subjected to some force. Because of this, expert bomb disposal would need to be brought in to detonate the explosives as well, and if they could not be moved, as it was so volatile, the shells would need to be safely detonated within the vehicle that would of course cause further damage and could virtually obliterate the King Tiger, giving it little hope of a complete restoration. The King Tiger, stuck under the D913 road in France, has had a very interesting history. It is believed to be King Tiger 124, which fought the Allies in France. On the 11th of August 1944, it was recorded in German official documents that a company of King Tigers left Mali-le-Camp by rail. The King Tiger had limited fuel and range, and it became easier to transport the vehicles across train tracks, as they were also very slow. It was more reliable to do this to get them to the front lines, rather than to drive them there, as they encountered so many mechanical issues. So King Tiger 124 was moved by rail, and it was deployed to the town of Mons-la-Jolie and around the village of Fontenay-Saint-Père. It was fighting alongside other King Tigers and other heavy German vehicles, and commanding Tiger 124 was SS Oberscharführer Fritz Sarner, who was part of the 503rd Heavy Tank Battalion. There was much fighting in the villages around Normandy and these regions of France, as defensive tactics were deployed by the Germans, using their tanks to try and repel the Allies, who had landed on the beaches in June 1944. The US forces in particular were trying to take the French towns of Mantoue and Versailles, and they had been for 6 days repelling attacks by the King Tigers, who were trying to push the advancing Americans back. On one afternoon, a group of US Air Force P-47 Thunderbolt bombers passed nearby looking to strike the German heavy tanks, and they had been called in as an airstrike to drop their bombs upon the King Tigers to destroy them once and for all. This was a common tactic used against heavy tanks, and it was often considered easier to use aircraft to disable them, rather than pitting vehicles such as the M4 Sherman against it, which could be knocked out by the King Tiger's armament. The Thunderbolts dropped their bombs at 4:46 p.m. on the King Tigers around the French villages, and King Tiger 124 was damaged by one of the explosions, and the tank then retreated back to the village of Montesson for repairs. There are a number of accounts as to what happened next. One account claims that when the Thunderbolts dropped their bombs, a number of huge craters were made in the terrain and on the roads, and that the driver of the King Tiger 124 saw one of the craters too late, and that the tank then fell into the crater, which was too deep for it to be rescued from. The tank crew, it was claimed, with this then managed to get out, and they tried their best to get out from the crater, but they could not do this, and with the threat of the advancing US Army, they decided to abandon the King Tiger and make a run for it, choosing not to end up as a prisoner of war. Another account claims that in the bombing of the King Tigers, the tank crew panicked and became scared, and they thought that the King Tiger would become their coffin, as they knew one bomb would destroy the vehicle if dropped directly on the target, and that the tank could explode into flames. This was a terrifying thought for the crew, and there were many panzer aces, even such as Michael Wittmann, who burned alive inside of their tanks as they were knocked out. The crew may have viewed the King Tiger as a sitting target, as it was way too slow to move out of the way as the Thunderbolts approached. This account claims that as the Thunderbolts circled around ready to drop their bombs, the crew of King Tiger 124 simply got out of the heavy tank and left it, leaving it out of the way of the road as to not block it. They then, it's claimed, managed to ditch it in their bomb crater. There is a third possibility, and this account as to the King Tiger 124's fate comes from the very historian who discovered the turret and managed to recover parts of it. He believes that the King Tiger was left on its side, having been overturned at the edge of the road, and then it was dragged into a bomb crater, presumably by German forces, to then destroy it and put it beyond military use for the Allies. German soldiers and crews were told to destroy their vehicles if they were rendered knocked out, so they could not be tested or recovered by the Allies and fixed. This historian also states that he saw an image with the markings of King Tiger 123 in the nearby region, and this does throw up the possibility that the Tiger buried under the road isn't 124, but instead King Tiger 123. Research that has been carried out on the King Tiger stuck under the road does allude to it being in the same company of heavy German panzers as the running and restored King Tiger tank found inside of the French Tank Museum at Saumur, meaning that it's likely that these vehicles fought alongside each other. One thing that has guaranteed its safety slightly is the insurance valuation that was placed on the King Tiger. However, this is probably too low for it. The turret has already been recovered, and there are hopes, as mentioned, to restore the vehicle to at least static display condition. One historian claimed about the $2 million insurance valuation that personally I'm surprised that the insurance valuation is not higher. There are around 10 original King Tigers in the world, and with this known combat history of number 124, I'm sure it would fetch 5 times that amount if it was put on the open market. It's likely that if recovered, King Tiger 124 that is buried under the French road would be restored by a specialist company, and there is allegedly one being restored at the moment inside of Britain, hopefully to running condition. If the vehicle was recovered, made safe and returned to this state, then it's possible that it would be worth a sum of more than £20 million at least, as Tiger 131, possibly the most famous tank in World War II history, and the only current running Tiger 1, is insured for its believed around £20 million. Tiger 124 had a rather interesting fate in the days following D-Day. It was deployed against the Allies to try and repel their advances, and saw a lot of action inside of France, trying to push the American forces, in particular, back. Whether the tank crew abandoned the vehicle willingly due to the fear from the Thunderbolt bombing raids, or whether the vehicle was accidentally driven into a bomb crater, we do not know. What is certain though is that the tank that still lies under the French road may hold some incredible artefacts relating to the crew who left the vehicle, and it may also be incredibly dangerous, holding many World War II shells that could, if subjected to some movement, become volatile. It's hoped today that the King Tiger's hull will be reunited with its turret and restored, but at the moment it still lies where it was left 80 years ago, waiting to be rescued and recovered. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.